The 2025 NFL season is officially underway, and for the Las Vegas Raiders, organized team activities have kicked off with purpose. Reports are rolling in, and the buzz is getting louder. Players are hitting the field, hungry to prove themselves, and some are already turning heads. Among them is a name not many expected to hear this early: safety Thomas Harper. While most of the national spotlight has missed him, inside the Raiders building, Harper's name is being spoken with quiet confidence, especially by defensive coordinator Patrick Graham. There's a real chance Harper emerges as a surprise starter this year, and if things fall right, he could be much more than that. Let's rewind for a moment. Harper went undrafted in 2020. He had offers but chose the Chargers over the Raiders because of a slightly better deal. That stint didn't last. After preseason, he was cut. The very next day, the Raiders claimed him. That decision is starting to look brilliant. Las Vegas kept him on the roster for the entire season, and he wasn't just holding a clipboard. Harper played 191 defensive snaps, with 124 of them coming after Week 12. In that stretch, he logged an interception, a sack, and multiple key run stops. Now consider this. The Raiders waived former third-round pick Byron Young, just a year after drafting him, to make room for Harper. That speaks volumes. It's not just about potential, it's about trust. There's more. During the final stretch of 2024, Harper wasn't just on the field. He was making plays at free safety, showing off his range and instincts. According to recent reports from OTAs, he's currently working with the first-team defense, especially in nickel packages. That's not a coincidence. It's part of a plan. At 5'10", Harper brings quickness, burst, and a knack for tracking the ball in the air. He's not afraid to hit either, something the Raiders have lacked at the position in recent years. He's fluid in coverage, disciplined in zone, and plays with the energy of a guy who knows what it means to be overlooked. And he's not just out-snapping camp bodies. He played more snaps last season than players the Raiders actually drafted, like Trey Taylor, MJ Devonshire, and Marvin Gentry. Remember, both Byron Young and Devonshire were released in part to bring Harper in. That alone says something about how the coaching staff evaluates him. Patrick Graham might have found his guy. In today's NFL, draft pedigree isn't everything, especially at certain positions, like safety, fit, scheme, and coaching can elevate an undrafted player into a real difference maker. Harper is already proving that. If he keeps up this momentum, don't be surprised if Harper becomes a key piece in the Raiders' defense this season. The nickel package might be his ticket onto the field, but if he keeps playing like this, the role will only grow. Keep your eyes on Thomas Harper. He's not just fighting for a job, he's chasing a breakout. It's not often you find quality left tackles in the 6th or 7th round. That's just reality. But when it comes to linebackers and safeties, that's where things get interesting. These positions are about instinct, effort, and fit, not draft hype. That's why Amari Gainner has my full attention. Last season, Gainner barely saw the field, just 12 defensive snaps. 10 of those came in Week 3 against the Panthers, 2 more later in the year. That's it. But don't let that fool you. This wasn't some practice squad guy. Gainner was on the active roster all season. The coaches kept him close, even if they didn't unleash him yet. He came into the league as a rookie undrafted free agent, a long shot by any standard. Most UDFAs don't even make the roster, let alone stick for an entire season, but Gainner did. And not only did he hang around, he dominated the preseason, flashing speed, burst, and physicality that couldn't be ignored. With the state of the Raiders' linebacker core, Gainer's opportunity is coming, and fast. The team has already moved on from Amari Burney, a former 5th-rounder. They've added veterans like Alendon Roberts and Devin White. But let's be honest, these aren't long-term answers. Roberts is in his 30s, and White, while once explosive, hasn't played like a top-tier linebacker in recent years. Jalen Smith is another vet whose best days are behind him. The Raiders need youth, they need speed, they need hunger, and that's exactly what Amari Gainner brings. He hits with force, he runs sideline to sideline, and most importantly, he plays like a man who's got something to prove. If the Raiders want to take that next step defensively, it won't be by leaning on aging veterans. It'll be by unlocking the upside of players like Gainner, guys who don't care about draft status, only results. And don't forget, we've seen this before. Nobody expected Robert Spillane to become a standout when the Raiders signed him, but he exceeded every expectation. Now he's one of the team's most reliable defenders. Could Gainner be next? He has that kind of upside, more than what we're likely to get from Roberts at this stage in his career. Roberts is who he is. Gainner, on the other hand, is still evolving, still rising, still hungry, and he's not alone. Tommy Eichenberg is another linebacker to watch. Physical, aggressive, smart. The kind of player who could force his way into snaps. And while Luke Masterson once looked like a future building block, that promise never materialized. The Raiders chose not to bring him back. That opens the door even wider. If Gainner keeps trending the way he has, it's easy to imagine him starting next to Devin White by midseason, or even sooner. And don't be surprised if the Raiders shift toward more base defense this year, with multiple linebackers on the field. There are reports that Patrick Graham is experimenting with five-man fronts, featuring Max Crosby and Tyree Wilson on the edges and 3 down linemen inside. That points toward a 3-4 base look, where versatile linebackers like Gainner can thrive. Gainner played on the line of scrimmage at times last year, a role he embraced with energy and aggression. If that continues, he could be the kind of hybrid backer who's constantly in the mix, blitzing, stuffing the run, chasing tight ends, doing the dirty work. The Raiders need that. And if they're going to take a leap this year, it'll be because players like Amari Gainner stop waiting and start taking over. There's no mystery with Jackson Powers Johnson. He's not a project. He's not a player we hope will develop. He's already arrived. And if the rest of the NFL hasn't noticed yet, they're about to. Powers Johnson is on a trajectory few rookies ever touch. He's not just projected to be one of the best centers in the league. He already looks like the best. His college film was violent, clean, and relentlessly technical. And when you translate that kind of tape into an NFL system that lets him anchor a young, surging offensive line, you get dominance. Look back at last season. The Raiders' offensive line evolved. Colton Miller got healthy. DJ Glaze stepped in at right tackle. But the real turning point came when Powers Johnson took over at center. The entire unit leveled up. More cohesion, more push, more protection. That wasn't a coincidence. This is a player with rare movement skills, elite leverage, and a nasty streak that doesn't quit. He doesn't just block defenders, he finishes them. Powers Johnson drives linemen 5 yards deep, buries linebackers at the second level, and turns screen passes into explosions with timely seal blocks. The tape doesn't lie, and neither does the scoreboard. Watch enough offensive line play, and you see it. Jackson Powers Johnson is different. His strength is matched by precision. His technique is advanced beyond his years. He's everything you want from a foundational interior lineman. The only center in recent memory who came into the league with this kind of immediate impact was Creed Humphrey. And even then, Powers Johnson's ceiling might be higher. He's more violent at the point of attack, more fluid in space. He's got a real shot to surpass Humphrey and become the definitive best center in football within a year. That's not hype. That's what the tape shows. There's just one thing standing in his way: durability. The way he plays, headhunting at the second level, punishing defenders like it's personal, it's beautiful to watch. But if he doesn't throttle it back a bit, it'll take a toll. He doesn't need to toss defenders helmet first into linebackers to prove his dominance. He's already dominant. Technique and control will preserve his greatness. That's the next step. Still, there are no holes in his game. None. Strength, IQ, anchor, agility. Powers Johnson is already the heartbeat of the Raiders' offense. And with names like Max Crosby, Brock Bowers, and Rasul Gentry on the roster, that's saying something. The Raiders have stars, but Jackson Powers Johnson might be their most important. The buzz around Jakarius Bennett has been mixed this offseason. Reports from OTAs say he's working with the second team. That's raised eyebrows and questions. But let's not overreact. Bennett suffered an injury late last year in Week 11 against the Dolphins. Since then, he's had roughly 6 months to recover. That's plenty of time for rehab, yes, but football shape is different. He's not limited in drills. He's not being held out of team periods like Malcolm Kuntz is. He's fully participating, and that's what matters most. If he's running with the second team right now, it's likely more about rotation than demotion. Training camp will give us real answers. Let's remember where Bennett stood last season. The Raiders saw him as a starting caliber cornerback. He was expected to line up alongside Nate Hobbs, Trayvon Moehrig, and Marcus Epps. But injuries shredded that vision before it could take shape. By midseason, the entire secondary looked different, and that's normal in the NFL. Few defensive backfields make it through a year untouched. What matters is who's still standing in December. not who's penciled in for June OTAs. And the truth is, Bennett has tools you can't teach: speed, hips, and physicality at the line of scrimmage. He's not a finished product, but the foundation is there. He's aggressive in man coverage, and he doesn't flinch in press. If the Raiders give him another real shot, he can be a difference maker. And they'll need one. Because this secondary is far from settled. Epps has been steady. Murig flashed last year. Hobbs, when healthy, is reliable. But behind them, there's room for someone to seize a job. The door is open. And Jakarius Bennett still has the traits to walk through it. There's a difference between getting benched and getting buried. And Jakarius Bennett? He was never buried, just waiting for the game to slow down. The raw tools have always been there. Fluid hips, explosive burst, aggressive hands at the line. Bennett isn't shy. He's a corner with a fighter's mentality. But early in his rookie year, the game was moving too fast. Mentally, he wasn't quite ready. And the Raiders knew it. That's why, despite promising flashes in training camp, Amari Robertson started week 1. But Robertson struggled. He allowed explosive plays, missed tackles. And by midseason, the door was open again. Bennett walked through it. He logged 361 snaps as a rookie, then 459 last season. Incremental growth, but more importantly, stability. And if he can stay healthy in 2025, he's primed to take the leap. Yes, there's competition. Eric Stokes, Cameron Richardson, Darren Porter. New system, new eyes. With PeteCarroll's staff coming in. But none of that changes this truth. Jakarius Bennett was handpicked by Patrick Graham. He fits the profile, and the Raiders still see the upside. The tape flashes with promise. Bennett's short area quickness stands out. He triggers downhill with urgency. He sticks with vertical routes without grabbing. There's real potential here, not as a depth piece, but as a legitimate starting boundary corner. This isn't about projecting greatness. This is about identifying a player with tools, tape, and time. Give him a clean camp, let the game come to him. And Jakarius Bennett might finally emerge as the corner the Raiders thought they were drafting all along. In a crowded backfield, Sincere McCormack could be the unexpected answer. The Raiders didn't draft him to be the star. They didn't sign him to carry the load. That job belongs to Ashton Jeanty, one of the most dynamic rookies in the league. But when Jeanty takes a breather, who steps in? The popular answer is Raheem Mostert. Veteran, fast, familiar. But he's also 32, and history isn't kind to running backs past their prime. That's where McCormack comes in. Before getting injured last year, he saw limited action, just 32 carries across 3 games. But what he did with them was undeniable. 6.6 yards per carry, 5.3 yards per carry, 5.2 yards per carry. That's not noise. That's production. McCormack totaled 175 yards on 32 carries, broke 8 tackles, and showed the kind of short area burst that can thrive in Chip Kelly's scheme. He ran hard against Kansas City. He produced against Tampa Bay. He made defenders miss in the open field. And that last point matters. Raiders GM JohnSpytek has said it before. If you're a running back who can consistently make the first defender miss, you'll find a role in this offense. McCormack did that. 8 broken tackles on just 39 touches. That's elite efficiency. Now health is the key. He's 24. He's still young, but the window is now. If he can stay upright and stack a few good weeks together, Sincere McCormack could solidify himself as the team's number 1. 2 back, ahead of Mostert, and behind only Jeanty. He won't carry the ball 20 times a game. He won't need to. But when the moment comes, 2nd and 6, Jeanty catches his breath. And the Raiders need a spark. McCormack could be the one to provide it. He's a sleeper, a slasher, a shot in the arm for a Raiders offense that already has fireworks. And this year, he might finally get his stage. 5 breakout candidates, all with upside, all with opportunity. But the list could have gone deeper. A few names just missed the cut. Trey Tucker was close, blazing speed, natural separation, and a few flashes in his rookie year that hinted at something more. But this is a new Raiders regime, and their moves speak loudly. 2 wide receivers drafted, 1 running back added, multiple playmakers signed in free agency. The message is clear. Competition is coming, and Tucker will have to fight for every snap. The talent is there, but is the trust? In 2025, we'll find out. Then there's DJ Glaze, drafted with promise, talked about with hope. But Glaze is still more of a projection than a product. The Raiders added another tackle with serious upside this offseason, and that might say more than words ever could. Glaze has traits, length, movement skills, but he'll need to show growth in technique, anchor, and processing if he wants to earn meaningful reps. He's not out of the mix, but he's not a lock either. On defense, Darnay Holmes nearly made the list. A corner with inside-outside versatility and real experience. In a nickel-heavy league, that matters. And with a new system under PeteCarroll, Holmes has a path to real playing time, maybe even a starting role. But with Jakarius Bennett and others already spotlighted, Holmes gets edged out. For now. The larger truth is this: the Raiders' secondary is being rebuilt on the fly. 4 of the 5 expected starters in the team's nickel defense could be new faces compared to 2024. That's not a tweak. That's a transformation. This is a pivotal year, not just for the players, but for the staff too. Patrick Graham has been here. He's coached these guys. He's had time. And now, that clock starts ticking louder. If these young defenders are going to develop, this is when it happens. Not next year, not someday. Now. So keep an eye on the fringes, on the backups, on the guys who didn't quite make the list. Because in the NFL, all it takes is one injury, one rep, one chance, and a player's future changes forever.